shitting on the NRA a little bit in the last episode. And, you know, I want to do a little more of that. So everybody, you know, like I was saying before, like the left wing turns the NRA into like the most extremist gun rights advocacy group out there. They're not even fucking close. I sometimes I can't even tell if they're actually a gun rights advocacy or they're just a moderate like gun control advocate group. But let me tell you, dude, this is the big problem with the NRA, okay? They're also, all this fucked up financial incentives that you get when you deal with the state, they're a part of that as well. And here's what happens with the NRA, right? So you have a group, the NRA, who's, what are they even advocating, really? Well, they come out and they say, oh, we don't want the Second Amendment to be infringed on, blah, 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 blah. But really, if you listen to the actual policy prescriptions of the NRA, it's like, oh, we should enforce existing gun laws, right? Or we're all for background checks, or we're all for whatever it is now. Like, you know, Trump just said the other day, he said, don't worry, the NRA will get on board with banning bump stocks, you know? Like, the NRA will go along with this, maybe just not quite as extreme as you know, like some of these lefties. But it's not exactly, it's certainly not a libertarian organization. And here's what's going on with the NRA, okay? You might wonder, why is it that the NRA, and this is one of the things that I find really fascinating about this this clip, is that it's finally pitting this dynamic, which I really like, where it's like, oh, okay, this isn't just gun owners versus people who advocate for gun control, right? It's gun owners versus cops. And I really, really like that dynamic because I think this is where the true issue is. Look, man, if you, and this is why I can't stand when anybody who says they're like libertarians or even just like if you claim you're for small government or for free markets or anything like that, but then you just like endlessly support the cops, you know? It's like nothing but support for the cops. Look, man, if it ever comes down to it, and you're worried about this whole thing like prying my guns from my cold dead hands and all that shit, it's not going to be some left-wing gun control advocate who's going to come take your guns away. It's not going to be some left-wing gun control advocate who throws you in a cage for having the gun that you weren't allowed to have. It's going to be a cop, okay? That's who it's going to be. If you're talking about, you know, shooting at a tyrannical government, well, who is that going to be? That's going to be the cops. That's going to be the enforcement wing of the state. It's like when these conservatives say they love small government, but they completely support the military-industrial complex. It's the biggest hypocrisy you could imagine. If you're a libertarian, okay, you can't also support the enforcers of the state. Now, you can make some argument that, like, well, I get, like you know, they're kind of like lower-level people following orders, and the people who should be prosecuted are at the top. Okay, fine. But you don't sit here and fucking act like you support them, that you're on their side. It's like, oh, I really think like Hitler is evil and the you know, the idea of fascism is evil, but I got to support the Nazis. You know? I mean, sure, there's a few bad apples, but you got to support the fine men and men. Don't insult the rank and file, Nazis. So why would it be, right, that the NRA are so slow to ever criticize police officers, seeing as how they're the ones who go around disarming people in all of these gun control states? They're the ones, right? They're the ones who would be doing the disarming if it ever came to that on a higher level. If what you claim that you're fighting against, this is the group that's going to be taking them away from you. Why is it when there's like what was that guy Orlando Castillo or something like that? But he was the guy who got shot up by the cops. And he had a concealed carry permit, and he told the cops that he had a concealed carry permit, and they lit him up. You don't see the NRA standing up for that guy. How about the guy, the guy in Arizona recently? The guy who, when we were talking about with Scott Horton when he was on the show, the guy who got executed. He was in his basketball shorts, and he's crawling down the hallway, and they execute the guy. Do you know what he was suspected of? There was reports that someone saw him with a gun. Okay? Now, it turned out not to be a gun. I think it was like a BB gun or something like that. But there were reports that someone had seen the guy with a gun. So a SWAT team comes in, fucking ready to light this motherfucker up, and they do. And they fucking murder this guy in front of his wife and the mother of his children. So wouldn't you think maybe the NRA would come out and go like, whoa, this guy has, the Second Amendment is very clear. This guy has a right to have a gun. The state can't come in and just execute a guy because he was suspected of having a gun. We're for your rights. We support, right? But you don't hear anything about that from the NRA in any of these fucking cases. There's not one police shooting where you'll ever see the NRA come out and speak against it. And here's why. All right? So when the NRA started, they used to like brag about the fact they had no corporate influence, right? But that changed over the years. So now it's actually less than 50% of the money that cops, the money that the NRA gets, right? Less than 50% of it is from like dues. So like what we were talking about last week, where like the thing Marco Rubio was saying, where it's like, oh, like, okay, well, you know, this isn't really like a lobbyist group like some of these other are that are just represented by industries. These are actually representative of like their members. It's like, yes, to some degree, but more than 50% of the money that they get comes in through outside corporate donations. And who are they getting that money from? Gun manufacturers, right? Those gun manufacturers want they want the NRA there. Now, who are gun manufacturers' biggest buyers?
The military.
And the cops.
Yeah, wow. That's a big part. I never knew any of that. Wow.
Yeah. So this is why this group that's supposedly there to protect the Second Amendment rights ends up being this fucking milquetoast moderate group that isn't actually standing up for all the people who go to jail for gun possession.